All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er update as the Niners take today off and they're back on the practice field on, tomorrow. They'll be back out there tomorrow for practice. So they're taking off Thursday and they're back at back at it on Friday, August the 2nd. All right, let's hit some of the topics from around the 49ers. But first, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go say hi to Damon. Go say hi to Mary. Get some brisket. Get some brisket chili. Tell them the Krug sent you. And this video also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. Call Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264. All right, Niners off today, back at it tomorrow, but they announced today that Frank Gore is going to the 49er Hall of Fame. He'll be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame's all-decade team of the 2010s. And he is also going to be the newest member of the Edward J. DeBartolo Sr. 49er Hall of Fame. The week one matchup against the Jets on Monday, September the 9th, will be when they announce it. He's or when they have formally introduced him as a 49er Hall of Famer for their internal Hall of Fame. He's a 5-time Pro Bowl selection. He made it in 2007, 2010, 2012, and 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, or it was 2007, 2010, 11, or 2010, 12, 13, and 14. That's it. And he was a member of the all-decade team of the 2010s, and just a great player all around. So he's the 31st member of the Niners prestigious Hall of Fame, one of the most storied franchises in all of professional sports, adds another to the Hall of Fame, and Frank Gore deserves it. Third leading all-time rusher. Having a hard time speaking today, but the third leading all-time rusher for the 49ers, and one of the guys just all heart. Still works with the 49ers in their front office. All right, a couple other notes. Tristan Wirfs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive tackle, maybe the best tackle in the game right now, signed a record-setting deal with the Buccaneers. Jason Light, the GM there, inks him to a 5-year, $140 million deal, $88 million guaranteed, an average annual value of $28.1 million. So this is notable. Why? Because Trent Williams is considered he's considered the top of the heap at left tackle, and he is the 6th highest paid left tackle as far as average annual value. Trent Williams makes average annual value of $23 million. Tristan Wirfs makes an average annual value now of $28.1 million. Trent Williams is holding out, and this is not going to make the holdout any easier for the 49ers. So, there's a big run on cash. I mean, these guys are all trying to get taken care of before Purdy gets taken care of and the money's gone. But the Trent Williams holdout just got a little juicier because now there's a real target to shoot for. And that's a big difference. 23 million AAV versus 28.1 AAV. Maybe they can throw some guaranteed money towards Trent and get it done. The Niners do have a lot of money under the cap right now, but of course they would, in an ideal world, love to roll much of that over into next year's cap so they can have more room to take care of Brock Purdy and to figure out what they're going to do once they are paying their quarterback north of $50 million, which is almost a guarantee. So that is the second big news of the day. Tristan Wirfs signs and resets the left tackle market in the stratosphere. And now this makes a very difficult task for John Lynch that much more difficult. You got to have Trent Williams. By the way, the 49ers, I think it's safe to say, should have won a Super Bowl by now in this Shanahan-Lynch era. And if you don't believe so, today the NFL Network, they're finalizing their top 100 list. The 49ers have Fred Warner at 11, George Kittle at 14, Nick Bosa at 27, Brock Purdy at 28, and Deebo Samuel at 30. And they haven't announced the rest of the list, but you can almost guarantee that Trent Williams and CMC are going to be top 10. So the 49ers are going to have 7 of the top 30 players in the NFL are on their roster. Nearly a quarter of the best players in the NFL are on the 49ers roster. I mean, that is really hard to believe. Of the top 30 in the league, they have Deebo, Purdy, Bosa, Kittle, Warner, Trent, and CMC. And there's always a chance that Mooney's in there, but I think he's not. So I'm going to say that's 7 of the top 30. That's 23%. 23% of the top 30 players in the league all are on the 49ers. There's 32 teams in the league. The 49ers have a ton of talent on their coaching staff, in their front office, and on the field. And they need to get this thing done. Let's be honest about this. When they went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54, they were ahead of schedule. You know, now this last time they were on schedule. Now they're a little bit behind schedule, to be honest. But man, they are stacked. They are stacked. They are loaded. And bring on the Jets week 1. Avoid injuries, bring on the Jets. And the Niners have 23% of the top 30 players in the league, all on the Niners. And the fourth and final part of our update today is, of course, on Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk on Wednesday continued his hold in. All right. So he was at practice, but he wasn't in uniform. And there's an awful lot of people speculating that, you know, we saw him dap up Lynch quickly, briefly, and then dap up Shanahan a little bit more of a dap, a little bit more of a hug. The Lynch one made me think maybe they're trading him and he's just on the field, you know, giving them the final handshake before he gets out of there. That was my first thought. But now, you know, there's a couple different conflicting stories out there today. One is Colin Cowherd says, he's tweeting out today on X, get ready for some big Brandon Aiyuk breaking news later today. If you look at when Deebo signed his deal, this is almost to the day that Deebo signed his deal. If Aiyuk did sign today. I think Deebo may have signed either a day earlier or a day later, but it's right basically exactly when Deebo signed. And let's be honest about this as well. This has to come to a head somehow, some way, and it has to come to a head now. Not in a month, now. If you're going to trade him, the team that's trading for him wants him now. Not in a month, now. If the Niners are going to sign him, they want to get that done now. Not in a month, now. So it is interesting because everybody was interpreting the dap up of Aiyuk and trying to read into it. And, you know, everybody, we can play you the Pat McAfee. Let's play McAfee here. Here's McAfee with AJ Hawk and Adam Schefter talking a little bit about this. So just to add a little more data before we throw the cut. So Cowherd says anticipate an Aiyuk announcement later today. Okay. Most people are speculating that's a contract extension getting done. But Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network is reporting that a deal is not close. And Adam Schefter of ESPN is reporting the exact same thing. that a deal for Aiyuk is not close. It does make you wonder if we just take all these, let's just take the data. Either are we supposed to believe that that Rap Sheet, who's the NFL Network's top rumor mill guy, and Schefter, who's the top ESPN rumor mill guy, that these two guys are both completely unaware of Aiyuk and the Niners being close to a deal? I find that hard to believe. So you telling me that even though, Cowherd is suggesting that there's a big Aiyuk announcement coming later today, he wouldn't speculate what it is. Most people are speculating that there's going to be a contract extension. Most people looked at that dap up at practice, and just the fact that he was out there at practice around the rest of the players as, oh, this deal's getting done. And maybe it is. But it also kind of makes you wonder, when Rap Sheet and Schefter are reporting today that a deal is not close, that maybe if a deal is not close, what's going to be announced later as far as Aiyuk news is not an extension, but a transaction. The other interesting little nugget, the Steelers have been the team that has been the most, on the trail of Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, I think the Steelers have been the team that's, but I guess maybe the best way to phrase it is they have been the team that has been most openly rumored and so boldly rumored to be after Brandon Aiyuk. Well, guess who got carted off in Steelers practice yesterday or the day before? Roman Wilson, their third-round draft pick out of Michigan. They were leaning heavily on Roman Wilson to give them something good this year. So they have George Pickens. He's tremendous. But they really wanted that second receiver, and then they drafted Roman Wilson, and now he looks like he was carted off. I think it was an ankle. So I don't have the update on how long he's out, but he's out for a while. So look at the rest of that receiving core. Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller, Quez Watkins, Des Fitzpatrick. Really? That's who you're going with? You're the Steelers? So it does make you kind of wonder, with Aiyuk dapping up Lynch and Shanahan, and yet Schefter and Rappaport are saying, from what they're hearing, no deal is close. And you got Cowherd saying, get ready for some Aiyuk news. I gave my opinion on the dap up yesterday in a video, and I'm rooting. I'll put my cards on the table. I have a vested interest in seeing the Niners win and win the Super Bowl. That's when I do better. I make more. My channel does better. My channel makes more. So I want to see the Niners win the Super Bowl. So that's you say, well, what's your interest in the vested interest? I want to see the Niners win the Super Bowl. So I do not want to see them trade Brandon Aiyuk, especially for draft picks. But, to me, you cannot trade him for draft picks. You just cannot do it. The only way I would even consider trading Brandon Aiyuk for draft picks, if it's to the Patriots or the Raiders for their first. That is the only way I would consider trading Brandon Aiyuk for draft picks, because that means those picks are going to be in the top 5. Those picks Patriots could wind up with the first pick in the draft. Niners still need a replacement for Trent Williams, and it's hard to find a tackle in the 20s. It's hard to find a tackle in the 30s. It's unheard of to find a tackle after that. Usually, if you're going to get a top-tier tackle, you got to have a top 10 pick. So eventually, if they want to replace Trent Williams, unless they can get somebody else to hand them a premier left tackle who's headed to Canton for a 3rd and a 5th, I think that's what they paid for Trent. They're going to have to pay handsomely, either in free agency for a replacement tackle, or they're going to have to draft somebody. So I'm rooting, full disclosure, for Aiyuk to not be traded. But it does make you wonder. The dap up, when I saw that dap up with Lynch, it didn't seem like that's the dap up between a valuable player and the general manager who's spent hours and hours and hours negotiating, you would think, with the representatives, or at least has been involved in it. It just seemed like if they really did get a long-term deal done to keep Brandon Aiyuk with the Niners long-term, don't you think Lynch, I don't know, to me, Lynch would have given him the bigger dap up, the bigger hug, like, hey, man, you're going to be here for the next X number of years, and we just committed huge amounts of money to you, and, you know, my chances of winning a Super Bowl as a general manager, you know, you have a huge impact on that. It just didn't, it was like, it didn't seem like that kind of a handshake. It almost seemed like, hey, man, you wanted the big bag. We're going to get you the big bag, and we're going to get you to a team that's going to deliver you the big bag. But where you're not getting it here, you know, not with Purdy going to get paid next year, not with, you know, 13 Pro Bowlers or Pro Bowl alternates, not with, you know, 7 of the top 30 players in the NFL are all on the Niners roster. That makes the cap squeeze, you know, you understand the cap squeeze right then and there. When you see the NFL's top 100 list and you see the Niners have 7 of the top 30, 23% of the top quarter of the league are 49ers, basically. That's why they're in such a cap. That's why they're in cap hell. And the fact that they're going to have to pay, they're going to have the biggest jump in the history of the salary cap, paying Brock Purdy $900,000 one year and paying him, who knows, $58 million the next year. So they're in cap hell. So very interesting day. And I would say, you know, keep YouTube around, keep your, you know, your radio on, keep, you know, your phone nearby, because today is a, you know, it's a big day. Now, I think it would be a great day to get him signed. You got the off day, you start practicing again tomorrow. He's out there. You signed him at basically the same time as you signed Debo. You've got your foundation piece receiver. I got to be honest, without Aiyuk out there at practice, it just doesn't quite seem as dynamic. They don't quite seem as electric. They don't quite seem as the word is dynamic. They're not as dynamic. Ricky Pearsall's making one-handed catches. Him and Purdy are clearly in lockstep. I think Cowing is a good receiver. They got great depth at receiver. If they wanted to trade Aiyuk, they have other receivers to replace him with, but none of them are him. None of them are the equivalent of Brandon Aiyuk. But that, you know, the fact that the rap sheet and Schefter, all right, let's hear from Schefter here. Here's Schefter with McAfee, and we'll be back in a second.
Yeah, Schefter, we saw a video yesterday that showed Brandon Aiyuk kind of dapping up John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and I think most people speculated, like, oh, okay, they must have reached some sort of agreement. We're going to see him back on the field. Then other people are saying, hey, maybe this is like a, hey, thanks for everything you've done. This guy's getting traded kind of dap up.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, saw a little bit of that as well. Do we have any updates in the whole Brandon Aiyuk situation?
Good dap here with Lynch. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. This one was Shanahan. Yeah. This one was Shanahan, though, Shefty. This one, hey, almost I heard the good news dap up right there. But we're just reading from very, very, literally 1,000+ miles away. We are reading this from.
Yeah, well, basically, there's no new deal there, and you know, again, they've had a really hard time working out a deal between the Niners and Brandon Aiyuk, and they've continued talking, but they just haven't made a lot of progress. So I think that's probably probably a little bit. They haven't made a lot of progress, so it's probably a little bit discouraging to both right now to try to get that done. And so it wasn't. Thank you for taking care of me kind of message, if that's what you're saying.
Okay, we misread the situation completely then, because from what it was just a few days back at training camp where he showed up in the white shirt with the backpack, do-rag, flailing a towel, and he talks to Lynch, and then he kind of just exits the field. You know, we're like, okay, that doesn't seem to be great. And then the dap up and the positive, we're like, okay, maybe that's good. But you're saying, no, there's no new development. They're just getting back on better terms, seemingly?
You know, I think it's a case where sometimes you wake up and you feel happy and you're in a good mood, and sometimes you wake up and you're not so happy. And I think that's what this is a case of. And I think people are reading too much into that and trying to ascertain that there's a meaning behind this message when there's not. It's just not what's happening in that particular video. A lot of people saying, oh, they worked out a deal, they worked out a trade at that moment. No, that's not the case. And again, that situation is still unresolved, still tenuous, and still needs to come to a head one way or another.
Okay, we'll put that on the ticker for sure.
All right, there you go. Adam Schefter basically saying exactly what Rap Sheet is saying, which is that according to his sources, the Niners and Aiyuk are not close on a deal. And yet Colin Cowherd says beware of some big Aiyuk news breaking later today. And yet Rap Sheet and Schefter, the two biggest informed guys, say the Niners are not close to a deal. So, and then the Steelers lose Roman Wilson, and it makes you wonder if the 49ers were saying, hey, we want a high price for Aiyuk, and the Steelers were saying, no, 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 no. Now with Roman Wilson going down, maybe they're looking at things and saying, you know what, we will give you that pick. We will give you that player. If it was a deal with the Steelers, the guys that I would have interest in from the Steelers, I mean, of course, they drafted 3 rookie offensive linemen that are all awesome. Mason McCormick, Zach Frazier, Troy Fatanu. You're not getting any of them. I don't believe you're getting any of them, but I would want them. To me, those 3 guys are very attractive. If I'm the 49ers, I'd want Justin Fields because I don't like Dobbs or Allen, and I don't think the Niners can win with Dobbs or Allen. And by the way, after just watching little brief snippets of Tanner Mordecai, I like Tanner Mordecai to beat out Dobbs and Allen for that backup quarterback job during the preseason. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing Tanner Mordecai looks better than Dobbs. He looks better than Allen. But that's why I'd be interested in Justin Fields. I love Najee Harris, so he's a Bay Area guy. I'd always have interest in Najee, even though the Niners clearly don't need another running back. I'd be interested there. You know, I'd be interested in any of their edge rushers. You know, Marcus Golden, Nick Herbig. The guy that I think I'd be most interested in. I mean, they're not giving you Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, that would be great if you get Minkah Fitzpatrick. It'd be awesome. I don't really even believe they're going to trade Alex Highsmith, who's their starting right outside rusher opposite TJ Watt. But the guy who I would want in a trade, if the Steelers really were coming to the Niners and they were talking seriously about a trade, I would want Fields because I really like Fields as a backup. But I'd want Peyton Wilson. I'd want their 3rd round draft choice this year out of NC State. You're not going to have Greenlaw. You can never have enough good, instinctive, fast, quality linebackers. Peyton Wilson is exactly that. He's big. He's fast. He's a very good linebacker prospect. If I could get Peyton Wilson in the deal, I would move Aiyuk. And I love Aiyuk. And I want to see the Niners win the Super Bowl. So I'm not in a rush to trade him. But if they're going to trade him, I want at least one. I don't want picks because picks don't help me win the Super Bowl this year. Though I guess I would take a pick in concert with a player. But I want a damn good young player. I'm giving you, Brandon Aiyuk, if there is a trade, a 26-year-old all-pro wide receiver who's going to be a major impact guy on your team. So, I want a young player on a rookie deal who's a good young player. And Peyton Wilson is a good young player. You know, he could be a very good 49er for a decade. That's what I would want if I were the 49ers and I was trading Brandon Aiyuk. But today's going to be interesting. So there you go. There's your 49er update. Frank Gore is going to the Niner Hall of Fame. Way to go, Frank. You're the man. Tristan Wirfs gets a record-setting deal, meaning that it's going to be harder than ever to sign Trent Williams, which makes it even more difficult to get Williams and Aiyuk in the fold. So then you got to decide, who do you want? And I think if the Niners if they gun to their head, they had to have Trent or Aiyuk. Despite Trent's age, I think they would go with Trent just because it's supply and demand, and he's the best left tackle in the game. He's not replaceable. And then the NFL Top 100 list continues to get announced, and the Niners clearly are going to have 7 of the top 30, which really illustrates why they're in cap hell to begin with. And then the Aiyuk story. He showed up, dapping up Lynch and Shanahan. Was it a congratulatory dap, or was it a thank you for helping me and my family secure the biggest bag on my way out the door dap? I can't think that he would be out there at practice around the other players if he had been traded, but who knows? Who knows? They probably have a deal done with Aiyuk, and they're probably going to announce it later today. That would be my guess. But I got to be honest, the fact that, and I've said I've got to be honest like 10 times in this video, but I got to be honest in that how many times, guys, have we ever, in the last 4 or 5 years covering the NFL, watching the NFL, how many times has both the Rap Sheet and Schefter been duped? How many times has something major, a major story has happened in the NFL, and it's somehow eluded Schefter from ESPN and Rappaport from the NFL Network? And both those guys are reporting that the Niners and Aiyuk are not close on a deal. So is Cowherd's big news with Aiyuk meaning a deal's getting done? Did the dap up mean a deal's getting done, or was it a goodbye dap up? And is the news going to be Aiyuk's a Steeler for X, Y, and Z coming back? I don't know. That's what's going on in 49er land. We'll be back down there in Santa Clara tomorrow. Check out my live stream tonight with Dieter. We'll hit all these topics, including all the latest and greatest on Brandon Aiyuk. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And, of course, thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.